All right, everybody, this is Zach. This is Chris. You're watching Port EXE, and we're about to do the Hot Ones Challenge. So the way that this is going to work, everybody knows that's watching this video, most likely that I do YouTube tutorials on programming. I do a lot of tech videos, etc. But I'm going to be passing this one off to Chris. Chris is going to be hosting this one. He's going to be interviewing me as somebody who doesn't have really any, I would say, programming experience. I think he's done a little bit of Python, but for the most part, he's not an engineer. So this is going to be a non-software engineer interviewing a software engineer. So with that out of the way, I'm going to hand it off to Chris.
All right. Shall we go ahead, take a bite of our first wing and get to the first question?
Let's do it.
All right. Tasting a little sweetness in there.
I think the main flavor is maple.
All right. So the first question is simply, what inspired you to start programming?
I think it really just started off with me having a really bad job, not having very much money, and knowing that I wanted to do something, some sort of career. I didn't know what exactly, but I just remember one night, close to my birthday, I think the night before my birthday, a friend of mine gave me a 7x7 Rubik's Cube. And I basically sat there for, I think, like 7 or 8 hours solving it. And by the time I was done, I was like jittery. I was like so obsessed with solving this thing, but at the same time, it was so hard to do. It was so hard to figure out how to solve this giant Rubik's Cube puzzle. And I remember at the end of that being like, I was just obsessed with that. Like, I loved doing that so much. That moment was a realization for me to say, hey, I think I need to do something where I'm thinking, I'm solving some sort of problem. And I literally went on, I think, Reddit or maybe just Google, and I said, careers where you solve problems. And one of the very first ones that popped up was programming. And I had no idea what programming was exactly, but I had always been into tech. And so I started looking into programming and realized I really loved it. And then I became obsessed with that. And here we are.
Gotcha. All right. Should we hit the second wing?
I'm not afraid. This is fruitier. Sort of. It's not spicy. I wouldn't really call this hot. Are you eating the bone?
A little bit.
This is why I brought Chris on the show, everyone. I love this guy. But yeah, we put an enormous amount of sauce on all of these, so we are going hard. Right now, it's not spicy, but I know it's going to get there.
With that, and the second question, this first one was, what inspired you to start programming? But what inspired you to start this YouTube channel?
So basically, I think it was basically, it started off where I was kind of bored with my job at the time. I was doing programming at work, but I was kind of getting bored of it. I'd been there for like a year and a half and felt like I wasn't really doing the stuff that made me excited about programming in the first place. I was like, you know what? I'm just always doing these home projects where I'm like building small things. I'm building like a calculator or a small weather app, just so it's fun. Just I enjoy doing it. It's a hobby of mine. So what I started off doing was literally recording myself doing that and then explaining what I was doing while I was doing it, and then calling that a tutorial basically. And the very first one that I did, I posted it on Reddit when it was done, and it like got 6,000 views overnight. And I was like, oh. And people started learning from that. And I started to see in the comments, people were like, hey, this was super helpful. So I just kept doing it. And here we are.
That's awesome. Let's get the third wing.
Let me ask you something before we do this third wing.
What's up?
How does that bone taste?
Pretty good. I mean, it's just cartilage. Recovering from a broken leg. So trying to get that extra bit of calcium in there. Plus, like, I don't like leaving any meat on the bone.
Good man over here. All right, the third wing. This is the Pico Rico. It kind of, I think this is like the pizza sauce one.
And for this third one, the question is going to be, so once upon a time in high school, your house burned down. What was it like after your house burned down, and how did that affect your life?
Nice. Well, yeah, I think I was 16 or 17. We lived in a trailer me and my family, in the woods, in the country as we call it. And something happened and the house ended up catching on fire, and the whole thing basically burned down. And at first, because we were pretty poor at the time, we had to just kind of stay living in that burned down house. It was like living in a cave. Literally, I would wake up, there would be birds on the couch and stuff.
How did you keep rain from getting in?
The roof was intact, but one of the walls was completely missing. So we weren't getting wet, but it was completely exposed to the outside. After a few days, like I would say a little over a week, we ended up, me and my mom, moving to Oregon. So we drove in a car all the way from Georgia, diagonally across the entire United States to Oregon, because we had a family member that lived there who said, hey, you can live with us and get a job and get yourselves back on your feet, while the stepdad, the man of the house, and other people that he knew were going to continue working on the house to get it livable again. So we went there, and I learned a lot, because during that process, I mean, previous to that, I had just pretty much lived in Georgia in the woods. Didn't have a computer, didn't have anything like that, definitely no Wi-Fi. And then immediately I had access to all of that, and completely different perspectives being on the West Coast and everything.
Now, before the house burned down, didn't your mom get you a computer?
She got me a computer. They got me a computer. It was like a couple days before my birthday, and it was sitting on the table, and I was so excited. I was like, my first real computer, that's going to be my computer. And then it just melted. It literally melted into a puddle. And then the next day it hardened back into like a pancake, basically. I was looking at it like, I'm okay. No emotional damage.
Nice.
All right, what's this fourth one? Is this the barbacoa?
And while you're chewing on that, the fourth question. So, what does your day-to-day routine look like as a senior software engineer?
Okay. So, I think there's a misconception. That is probably the best tasting one so far, by the way. Out of all the sauces so far, it's the best flavor. It's not very spicy yet. I'm still waiting, but that is amazingly good. To answer your question, I would say it has changed over the years. It used to be kind of like I would focus a lot on the YouTube, and I would also focus on work, and then I would also focus on like my personal fitness goals, and I would do all these things in a day, and eventually I burned out. And I realized that life has to have some sort of balance. So lately, my routine basically is like I wake up, first thing I do is drink coffee, go into my first day's meeting, check all my emails, do the normal day-to-day stuff you kind of have to do. And then I do some of the low-hanging fruit work for the day. And then I go and I do an exercise, usually some sort of long run, some intense workout to reset my mind.
Now, really quick, what do you mean by like the low-hanging fruit type stuff?
So in software engineering, if you work at a company, most of the time you're going to be working on like deep features like that take weeks to build or months even, but you're also working on smaller things at the same time, things that only take a few hours, just like bug fixes or just like small features that product wants you to build that you know you can do really quickly, or just like updating documentation, that sort of thing. So I'll do some of that, and then I'll go reset my mind with a workout, and then that's when I sit down for about 4 hours straight, put on my favorite headphones, put on some bass music, usually some drum and bass or some lo-fi hip hop or something, and get into a flow state and do like the really intense work for about 4 hours. And then usually from there, I'll either call it a day, or if I'm working on something I'm really passionate about, I'll find myself working like 12-hour days every single day, like 7 days a week. So it really just depends on what I'm working on. Sometimes I will literally work nonstop for like 3 weeks straight if I love what I'm working. So before you ask my question, I got one for you. You lived in China for a while, and you've actually had Sichuan. You brought me sometime.
Yeah, I've had actual Sichuan peppers,
and it's got a similar flavor to that, I can tell. But we were talking earlier about how Sichuan like numbs your tongue. This is not doing that. I am starting to feel a little bit of a spice now. It's very light, but not like Sichuan. Sichuan has like a completely different like sensation. Can you explain that?
So they call Sichuan peppers over there mouth numbers. And it's not because it hurts so much that you can't feel your mouth, but it's just It's almost like you bite into a Sichuan pepper and then slowly this like lidocaine feel almost goes through your mouth. It's like, it's not numb, but it's like you just have this weird, like almost like a spicy numbing sensation to it. And it's not very hot. A lot of people say that Sichuan peppers are super spicy. It's not that they're super spicy. I think it's just the sensation is very noticeable. It's not painful, but it's just weird when you bite into it.
I hate it and love it, because when you brought it to me, I was like, I hate this, but I just kept grabbing more and more.
Because you're just like, what is this feeling?
It's so new.
But yeah, it's like anytime, like even this sauce, I get anything Sichuan, like the sauce tastes exactly like a Sichuan pepper, but it doesn't have that mouth numbing feeling to it.
It's like a mixture between mouth numbing and like Pop Rocks.
Now, the next question I had was, what are your thoughts on college? Because you're obviously at a very high level within programming, a level that most people probably think you need like a master's degree in engineering to get to that level. But what are your thoughts? And didn't you at one point have the opportunity for a company to pay for you to go to college, but then you ultimately decided, nah, I'm not going to do this?
So fun fact, I did end up taking them on that offer, but I quit. So basically, here's what happened. I'll answer the first part of that question after I answer the second part. So the second part, I worked for a company. They were like, we want you to have a degree. So they were like, here, we're going to pay for you to get a degree. So I started going to college for, I think, 3 semesters. I ended up getting all of the math courses in. So starting at like college algebra, pre-calculus, and then calculus. And I learned a lot and I loved calculus and everything. But then I started to realize, what am I doing? Like, I know how to program and I know what it is I'm doing. All of this stuff is awesome, and it would be very helpful if I was doing something like game development or something where you had to understand physics. But web development, no, I didn't feel like it was worth my time at all, honestly. And when it comes to whether or not I think people should get a degree when going into software engineering, that's the mindset I would take. Unless there's something in college you want to learn specifically, or if you just want to have the experience. If you don't care about any of that, don't go to college. The paper's not going to help you. It's not going to. It's about hands-on experience, and the best way to get that is to just start coding now. So if you're brand new at coding, start coding now. And when you get into an interview, what that's going to look like is they're never once going to say, hey, where'd you get your degree? That's not going to happen at all. Instead, they're going to say, hey, can you do this? Can you solve this problem? I'm going to watch you solve it. And if you do a really good job, they'll move you on to the next part of the interview. And I've had probably 6 or 7 jobs where I've been either senior or staff level, and never once has anybody asked me about a degree other than that very first job.
Now, what's the difference between a senior and a staff level?
So a senior developer is somebody who is really good at managing themselves, solving really hard problems, and being able to upskill their team with them. A staff engineer is more like that same thing on a way bigger scale. So now you're starting to go outside of your team and you're kind of managing yourself and other people across multiple teams, and you're solving problems that have just a bigger scale in general.
Gotcha.
Yep.
All right. Are we ready for this next wing?
Turmeric bomb, I think, right?
Turmeric
Scotch
bomb.
Bonnet. This is where
This is the one that
ooh, smells
playing
sour
with the nose.
Fell out of my hand. Okay, there's a little spice. Now we're getting somewhere. My goal is to get through without touching that milk. All right. Hit me with it.
All right. So next question is more in lines with like music. From listening to math rock to playing in high school marching band to creating your own music identity as Moonwash, how would you define music, and how can potentially that even play into the programming world? So
basically, I would define music. It's impossible to define music. I mean, what was it, like 20 years ago, most people would have considered hip hop not music. And now it's probably the most popular form of music. But in essence, what ends up happening is you can create this sound that makes you feel some sort of way. And there can be good music you enjoy. And then you can also listen to music that has a bunch of tension that you don't enjoy, but you still want to listen to it for that reason. I have gone through many different genres that I enjoy, everything from jazz, hip hop, rock, metal. Personally, I really still love like the early to mid 2000s new metal era, I guess you could say, which is somewhat embarrassing for some people to say, but I love it. Linkin Park, Korn, System of a Down, love it all. But nowadays, I really like the direction that electronic music is going in. I feel like it's the highest fidelity form of music that exists right now. That and hip hop. But Moonwash came out of basically me wanting to express myself through music. I had a lot of friends who were into music. I wanted to just be part of that. And obviously we were in band together in high school, so I had a lot of experience performing music, and I just loved it so much that I wanted to keep doing it. And then eventually I just started learning more and more software involved with creating music. And I did find that I could use my programming skills to help myself with music production and even practicing music. Like very recently, I created an app that would help me train guitar, and it was very tailored specifically for my needs. I was able to build that. That's on the YouTube and Twitch as well, if anybody wants to check it out. That one's got me hiccuping a little bit. But yeah, that's what I would say. I think Moonwash was originally just supposed to be like this mysterious, like I didn't want to be associated with it. I just wanted there to be this essence out there that was Moonwash, that was creating music, and nobody knew it was me other than my friends. But I started using it in my YouTube videos, and now everybody kind of knows who I am. So that I know it. I'm not famous. That's not what I'm.
All right.
That tastes good.
That's amazing.
It's very sweet at first, but I'm feeling the spice. Wow. That might be my favorite one so far. As you can tell, we love spicy food here. This one definitely got a kick, but it's manageable.
All right, for number 7, we're going to do a throwback to something that they have in the Hot Ones show called Explain That Gram.
Word. That one's starting to kick.
Where we take a deep dive on your Instagram, pull up some interesting pictures, and try to get better context on it.
Let's do it.
All right.
Oh, that one's kind of spicy, bro.
Picture number 1. Explain this.
So that's one of my favorite moments. If you don't know what that place is, you need to go there. It's called the Manitou Incline in Colorado. It's right outside of Colorado Springs in a town called Manitou Springs. And it's a really difficult trail that goes up a mountain. I think it's like 2,500 feet of elevation gain in 0.8 miles. And I used to do it like every single morning. And one day, I went out there and somebody was walking down it on their hands. In that picture, I decided to stop what I was doing and took a picture of it because it blew my mind. And then I was clapping for them. I think actually...
Did they clap back?
No, but I do remember she was wearing... I think she was clown training. I think she was like in a circus because she was dressed up in a way when I saw her face that I was like... I think she might have been training for some sort of circus event.
Gotcha. And what about...
If I was eating casually right now, I would literally drink the milk, but I'm not going to do it. It's...
What about this?
Is that the tiny axe? Dude, what, didn't you put that there?
Yeah.
Okay, so first of all, that is inside of my old car. I think it was a Dodge Neon, or maybe it was my Honda Accord. I think it was my Honda Accord. And the rear view mirror fell off. And at some point we found this tiny axe, like this little action figure tiny axe. And I think I gave it to Chris. Chris kept calling it the tiny axe. And then he left it on the little clip that where my rear view mirror was supposed to be and just left it there. Do you remember where we found that?
I don't. I didn't even remember it until I looked in the comments and I was like, old tiny axe.
I think that was the night, the day we went to Moppet's Mill.
Ah, yeah.
Yeah.
It says this was 290 weeks ago.
Oof. Do the math, folks. We were kids.
Explain this one.
Okay, that was another one where you were there. So if anybody knows what the dragon is, the tail of the dragon, we decided we were going to go there. Chris over here actually drives a Harley, or drove a Harley. He's got a story about that I'm probably linked to some material so you can know more about that. That's a whole story in its own. But he drove a Harley and he wanted to do the dragon. So I decided to go with him. Little road trip. I drove my car. He drove his motorcycle. And we decided to stop over close to the dragon the night before and camp at one of these, like, I don't know what you would call it, like very tiny homes, I guess. And on the way up, we decided to go by Mercier's Orchard, pick up some ciders, some nice jelly. And this was us sitting outside of that little tiny home after we had very
like 2 hours trying
Yes.
to build a fire.
successfully, but almost a failure, built a fire, chilling around it, drinking some ciders. That was an awesome time.
Yeah, and don't forget, we've picked our ciders by getting flights of ciders and then picking our faves.
Yeah, we picked our favorites out of the flight, and those were amazing. We got to go back there.
Do you? All right.
Good times. On to the next one. Oh, is this
On to
the
the next one.
This is the bomb?
The bomb.
We're doing the bomb.
The bomb.
And we saturated it. Like, Chris did the bomb, and I looked at it, and there was just so much sauce on it. So this is about to annihilate me. Ready? Cheers.
Cheers.
Ooh, instant kick. Child's play.
And now number 8. You got an internship in Colorado, but the way you got that internship was through Reddit. How did that come about?
So before I ever had a programming job officially, like as a professional programmer, I lived in Georgia, and there was nowhere around.
Are you okay?
Yeah, I'm fine, dude. It's just really spicy. That's all. There was nowhere around here that was hiring for programming jobs. So I was born in Colorado, and I had a lot of family in Colorado. So I decided to just drop everything I had, and go drive to Colorado and live with my uncle on his couch. And I got there, and I was finding like easy jobs to do. And the very first thing I decided I wanted to do was get these easy jobs, and while I was doing those, look for a programming job and take it immediately, no matter what it was. So I got on Reddit like the third or fourth day I was there, and I made a post. I was like, hey guys, I'm new to the city, and I'm a programmer, and I'm looking for a job. And I literally got a call like 2 hours later. Went to the interview 2 hours after that. I got the call while I was rock climbing. I was on a rock wall, got the call. I was hanging off a rock wall yesterday. He was like, hey, can you come into an interview? I'm like, yes. And then I got down from the wall and ran to my car, slicked my hair back, went to a job interview, nailed it, and then I had a job. Oh, it was an internship. That's correct. However, it was a paid internship, and it was a trial period where they were basically going to test my skills for 2 months. And at the end of it, if they liked me, they were going to hire me full time, and they did.
Now, if I remember right, during that trial period, they had you programming in C++, but you had never learned that language, right?
No. I wasn't programming in C++, but everything there was built on C++ on the back end, with a small layer of Python on top. I was hired to build a UI that interacted with that, and I was using Angular.
Gotcha. All right, ready for wing number 9?
Yeah. What flavor is that? Is that unique garlic?
Mm-hmm.
All right. Not bad. The bomb was definitely spicier than that one.
Mm-hmm. Now, as a programmer, a lot of people like to think of software engineers, programmers as computer geeks who are usually out of shape, who don't do a lot of physical stuff. But you've done things like hiking Pikes Peak, running a half marathon. Currently, you're training for a full marathon. What pushes you to want to do these types of challenges?
Well, for me, from my experience with the industry and the people that work in it, there are a lot of different types of people that work in it. I think the stereotype probably was true at one point, because you kind of had to dedicate all of your life to technology to be able to be a programmer back then. But now it's kind of easier because you can go on YouTube and learn yourself, and then on the side also do your normal stuff. So you don't have to be as like crazy into technology nowadays as you used to have to be. But me personally, I have always been into fitness. I was always like the kid on the playground challenging people to races and doing the monkey bars and seeing who could do this, that, and the other. Yeah, I mean, I feel like there's a connection between the two. Programming is very mental, and exercise is obviously very physical. And you have to have a balance of the two in order to reach your optimum capacity, I think. So when you're doing a lot of mentally fatiguing work, I find that I do something really hard physically, it resets my mind, and I can go back to doing that mental work really well. Definitely not spicy.
Definitely not spicy. I mean, I definitely don't have a piece of sweat going down my face right here.
I was talking crap for the first 6 wings, but
all right,
my
though,
gums are on fire, bro.
We're on to the last one, the last dab. So it's tradition on here to take it, put a little bit of a dab on the last wing.
Oh yeah? Oh yeah?
Yeah.
Let's go.
You did about a fourth of what I got.
Prove it. Show it to your camera. Dear Lord. All right, let's do it. And I'll answer your question. I hope it's a good one.
All right, this final question. Ooh, really good taste.
Very mustardy.
So what advice do you have for anyone thinking about getting into programming?
Well, I'm going to take this from the perspective of web development. It might be a little bit different depending on the industry you're getting into. But don't get distracted by all the hype out there. In web development, there's like new technologies that everybody's talking about every month. Focus on the fundamentals and figure out like the very basics of how the internet works. How like when you click on a website, what happens? Does it go to a DNS server? How does the server respond with a web page? Understand how all that works, then learn JavaScript, and then start to understand how JavaScript interacts with frameworks and stuff like React and Node.js, etc., and understand how the applications are loaded. Oh my God. And then that's when you can start to get into the hype, is when you really have mastered the fundamentals. Then you can look at like a blog post and see someone's hype post about a new framework and then just be like, oh yeah, I'm really interested in that, bookmark it. Or, oh, this is just another hype thing. And then never look at it again. So master the fundamentals. That's my advice. All right, so that's all the 10 questions for me. And it's usually customary on the show to roll out the red carpet to the person that Sean Evans is interviewing. However, in this case, I'm going to roll it out to Chris. Is there anything you want to talk about to this camera, or this camera? It's all for you, friend.
So for me, biggest thing going on with me is I have an Instagram, The Wondering Chris. On there, I'm about to go through a surgery back in January. Almost lost my leg in a motorcycle wreck. This Friday, I'm getting my leg rebroken to straighten out a bone. And I'm trying to build a positive image for people who are also going through stuff, who are trying to get back into shape, trying to get back to the normalcy of life. Because after almost losing your leg, it's very easy to get depressed, to feel like your life is going to shambles. But I'm trying to build something on there to inspire people to keep pushing, because I know as soon as this surgery happens, it's going to be another several months of just healing through that bone and then getting myself back to where I can hopefully run that marathon with you.
Dude, that's amazing. I just want to say that whole time I was trying not to laugh because you have sweat running down your face. I literally see the reflection of the water. There is literally drops of water coming down your face. But yeah, beautiful, man. Thanks for coming out here and interviewing me. It's been fun. And that's that, everyone. Don't forget to subscribe, like this video, follow Chris on his Instagram. There will be a link in the description. And yeah, this was actually really spicy.
And we should compare plates on camera so they can see how little you ate.
I am going to cut before you said that. Goodbye.